Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm Loretta Green Williams, the founder, Chief Executive Director for Women of Concern Professionals and Strategic Conscious Networking. Our core values are gender equity and equality. And within our four pillars, that is the premise of everything that we derive as those two components. So, what are our core pillars and what are they designed to do? Well, those are our principles of practice. What that means is what we stand on, we strive to do, that we enhance and motivate communities to move forward. The discovery that I've had under my direction of doctoral in social and cultural anthropology, that this critical thing that communities have with women is a platform to move their thoughts and their directions forward. We created platforms that make it a lot easier with support globally. Our first pillar one is community development, where we believe that the socioeconomic relationship in the community must start first with the women. Pillar two is women's health, what is critical, which we will be talking about today, a component of how we address women's health. Pillar three is education. We believe that education comes in multiple platforms. Our Literacy Festival will take place on August the 23rd, where we're excited, where we're going to have our junior ambassadors, young people that are children of our Board of Trustees, and community members who will be reading from their favorite book, their favorite readings. And we're excited to promote and enhance literacy. But we also increase leadership skills, confidence through sports with our Urban Girls Suburban Swirl platform. And of course, our pillar four, which are global sustainability under the Global Sustainability Partnerships. But let's go back to pillar two, and let's explain why we're so excited that our very dear Abiodun Adeleke, who is the international chair for the Walking in Silence for the Silence Domestic Violence Solidarity Walk, will be coming to us right after I finish up to introduce our guest speaker, who is also a Board of Trustee member. Now, according to the UN, women, an estimated 736 million women worldwide have experienced physical and sexual violence, most often at the hands of someone they know, a loved one, an intimate partner. Now, this figure translates roughly into 3 in 1 women are addressed with this crisis. So that's an average of 140 women and girls are killed every day by family members, with 60% of these femicides are being committed throughout our communities. So we want to address that. We're excited that Abi has taken on this platform with the SGBV series. So July, we are going to address a specific side of that. And we're excited to have Abi with us. He has been a powerful force to move this platform. I am grateful to God for him, his passion, his commitment, and he understands being a man, he must step up and stand against this crisis that is a pandemic globally. Abi, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Loretta. You are such an inspiration. Thank you so much. We want to welcome everybody to this session. I want to say thank you all for joining us. We are glad to have you here with us. We are not taking this for granted. Professor, Madam Justina, thank you for joining. Diane, thank you for joining. You are all welcome. Basically, this is a kind of a series, a led-up series to our global annual domestic violence solidarity walk that comes up on the first Saturday of every November yearly. We are doing this to speak up, for those who have been silenced by domestic violence. And as a male ally, we have to take up this responsibility because we just have to do it for our wives, for our daughters, for our sisters, sisters-in-law, nieces, because we can't just afford to keep quiet. So today, our host, our main speaker today, Betty Ngneo, also one of our member on our board of trustees. Before I hand over to her, a quick introduction about Betty. Betty brings a deep passion for social justice to every space, that she enters. As a trained sexual and gender-based violence instructor, she is dedicated to empowering individuals and communities to understand, prevent, and respond to violence. Our commitment extends to broader gender advocacy and the critical issue of climate change, where she worked to highlight the intersectional impacts on vulnerable populations. As I said earlier, Betty serves as a member of the Board of Trustees for WCPSCN and also contribute personally as a gender officer with Ambulance Solutions Limited in Kenya. Furthermore, she is honored to be the founder of Mothers Rebellion for Climate Justice, a grassroots movement mobilizing mothers for urgent climate action. And she also volunteered her expertise as a gender officer at WEM Africa in Cameroon. Our work across these diverse roles reflects our unwavering belief in building a more equitable, just, and sustainable world for everyone. So it's my pleasure to welcome Betty as she takes the floor. Betty, over to you.
Hi, Happy. Thank you so much for that introduction. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes, please, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah. So hello, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining us today. Today we are tackling a different and very crucial subject. That is the link between financial dependence and gender-based violence. And today we'll explore what economic chains and financial dependence are, how these directly fuels sexual and gender-based violence, the devastating impacts on survivors and communities, and crucially, what practical steps can we all take to break these chains and foster economic empowerment? And why does this topic matters? This isn't just an academic discussion or just a discussion just to pass time, but it's about real lives, real suffering, and our collective responsibility to create a safer and more equitable world. And first, I'll start with introductions or definition of terms of what is economic change. Economic change refers to the insidious ways in which an abuser controls a survivor's financial resources, limiting their ability to support themselves or escape a violent situation. For example, if the abuser can control the survivor's bank accounts, they do that by withholding their money, preventing them from getting employed, sabotaging work, accumulating debts in the survivor's name, destroying property, or even refusing to pay for child support. Another definition is financial dependence. This is a state where an individual relies heavily or entirely on a person for their financial needs, often due to a lack of independent income, asset, or access to resources. And not all financial dependence is abusive, but it becomes a tool for abuse when used to exert power and control. What is sexual and gender-based violence? This is an umbrella term for any harmful act that is perpetrated against a person will, that is based on their socially ascribed role, that is gender, differences between males and females, and it includes physical, sexual, psychological, and economic abuse. And this economic abuse is what we are going to tackle today. And what is the interconnectedness? How does this financial dependence fuels SGBV? Number one is lack of strategy. Without financial means, survivors often have no safe place to go. They have no way to afford housing, food, or legal assistance. This is a primary barrier to living an abusive relationship. If you don't have a lack of exit strategy, if you don't have any source of income, if you are being abused, but you don't have that money that can get you out or even get food for your children or even for yourself, that person tends to stick there because they lack strategy or they lack that financial dependence to move on. Another one is increased vulnerability. Economic precarity makes individuals more susceptible to exploitation and further abuse. And I always say that the poorer you are, the more vulnerable you become. When you have nothing with you, people can abuse you and they can use your situation to benefit themselves. Another thing is psychological impact. The constant struggle for basic needs, coupled with financial control, erodes self-esteem, urgency, and hope, making it harder to envision a life free from violence. When you have that constant struggles with basic needs, maybe you're struggling even to buy something worth Kenya $1, and that now erodes your self-esteem. Your self-esteem goes down, you even lose hope, and it's even making hard to envision your life outside there. So that the survivor may choose to stay there because they see nowhere better or they can't see beyond that, and they become more vulnerable. Another, how this felt is isolation. Abusers often isolate survivors from support networks and employment opportunities, further tightening the economic chains. The abusers always use that opportunity. They control you, or even if there's an opportunity somewhere, they control you from going to that opportunity, or even maybe they have access maybe to your email. Whenever you receive a letter for employment somewhere, they delete the email so that they can continue to abuse you because you don't have that access or even support network. And another one is the cycles of poverty and violence. The generational impact, that is, children witnessing economic abuse are more likely to experience or perpetrate violence later in life. That is, perpetuating cycles. If the children witness this abuse. Hi, Nelly, can you mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so let me continue. As Madam Justina usually says, if the children witness abuse, they tend to practice that abuse, and they end up maybe in jail because of that, and it's something they saw when they were children, and it's become a cycle. It's become like perpetrating a cycle of abuse. And the example or scenarios, for example, imagine a partner who controls finances, giving an allowance for groceries, but demanding receipt for every penny, while simultaneously forbidding the other partner from working. And this happens to most people. Those, let me say, those women who doesn't work mostly. I've had from where I stay, I always saw all those things happens. And story of another lady. The husband works somewhere. He earns really good money, and unfortunately, he took that lady from school. I think she was in Form 4. She didn't even finish Form 4. And that guy has been abusing that lady, like physically, emotionally, because he knows that she can't go anywhere because she doesn't have much education. She doesn't have a certificate for Form 4 that is crucial for getting an employment. And that person, whenever in fact, even the guy himself go and buy vegetables because he doesn't want to give the wife any money. And you see that lady has been so stressful, thinking of even thoughts of killing herself. But I was able to talk to her, and she got herself something, despite the fact that the husband was not that comfortable with the lady getting some work to do. But to the lady side, she became economically able to do some things for herself. What are the devastating impacts of this SGBV on the economic abuse, on the abusers? Number one is physical and mental health. This includes stress, anxiety, depression, chronic health issues, lack of access to healthcare due to financial barriers. For example, if maybe you are sick because you don't have that economic empowerment, you don't know to go to hospital because you cannot access healthcare, or even sometimes if you are being abused physically, the person maybe cannot even give you that money to go to hospital to get medication. Another thing is loss of autonomy and dignity. The person feels trapped, helpless, loses sense of self-worth. Because you see that you don't have that money, you can't even afford to buy shoes for yourself, then you start losing self-worth, like I'm worthless, I don't even belong here. And people, maybe sometimes when your mental health is really bad, some people go for maybe committing suicide. And there have been some very many cases here in Kenya. There's been a lot of cases on SGBV where women are killing themselves and killing, including children, because maybe that lady thought that if I leave these children, they will still serve under the hands of the father or the man she lives with. So some took that initiative of killing herself and the children because they see that they feel trapped and helpless. Another impact on the survivor is homelessness and poverty. There is risk of becoming homeless. There is a risk of deep poverty. There is a risk of inability to meet even basic needs. What do I mean by saying that? Homelessness. If you are a survivor and you depend fully on someone for financial help, if that person decides today to cut off that help, obviously you become homeless. There's because where will you get money to maybe to rent a place, or even to get maybe even transport to go to maybe to your rural area, or even to a friend's house? So that one, the survivors risk of becoming homeless. Another impact on the survivors is limited educational and employment opportunities. For example, there's no career in advancement, or even being forced out of jobs. We have seen a lot of cases where sometimes men feel that if women are more empowered, they become more powerful, and some take that personally, and they even make their women who have been working and earning very good money to get out of their work to just become housewives. Another thing is child welfare. Children often suffer from poverty, instability, and emotional trauma. If the parents keep fighting, or even if there's abuse at home, the emotional well-being of the children becomes even poor, and the kids suffers the most. What are the impacts on that's what the impacts of SGBV on economic abuse on the abuser, and what are the impacts on the communities and society? Number one is the increased strain on social services. That is shelters, legal aid, and healthcare systems. What do I mean by saying that? If we have more people who are being abused in a community, it means that the shelters, there is increased strain on the shelters available maybe in the community, or even strain on the legal aid services that are available in the community. Another thing is the reduced economic productivity. That is a diminishing workforce participation. For example, if in your village, if all men decide that no woman is ever working, for example, in Africa, women, they contribute almost 90% of agriculture. if men decide that today that all women cannot work, how will that village look like? There will be poverty, and yeah. Another thing is the perpetration of inequality. This reinforces gender inequality and societal norms that disempower women. I hope you understand that. And another impact on the communities and societies, intergenerational cycles of violence and poverty. And this limits future potentials. If these cycles continue, if maybe, for example, if your father was beating your mother and you are a son in that family, so even you as a son, if you get married, there's a high probability of you becoming abusive to your wife. And also if you get a son, your son also has a high tendency of becoming abusive to his wife also, and the cycles continue. And what can we do about it by breaking these genes? As an individual, as interpersonal action, we should recognize the signs. For example, we should learn to identify economic abuse for yourself, for friends, for family, and colleagues. We can do it by starting by ourselves, by you. Can you recognize that economic abuse for you? Do you feel that abused economically? Is your friend being abused economically? If you can recognize that, you are able to help that person. Another thing is to offer support and not judgments. If someone discloses or if someone believes in you, listen to them without judgment and offer practical help if you can. If you cannot, please refer to someone else that you think that can help that person. Another thing is financial literacy and planning. We should always encourage and support financial literacy for everyone, especially for women and vulnerable populations. If we offer this financial literacy, women will tend to maybe save. Whenever they cut something, they have something to save. So whenever there is an issue in future, they will always have money somewhere that they have kept for any emergency. Another thing is safe communication. We should always help create safe spaces for people to talk about financial struggles without shame. There's something in our societies that sometimes people fear to speak because some people have loose mouth. For example, maybe I talked to someone today that telling that person that I'm really struggling, I don't have this and this. And just imagine tomorrow you're passing by somewhere in the road and you hear someone talking about it. Will you be able to tell someone else about any situation in future? Of course not, you will not, because there is no that safe communication that if like that person doesn't feel safe to speak to you about that thing, even if that person is undergoing through something very difficult. And another thing is by standard intervention. We should learn how to safely intervene if you witness economic abuse. We should learn how to safely intervene if you witness economic abuse. You should always be able to, if you can identify, you are always able to intervene if you can witness that situation. And what can we do for systematic and institutional solutions? Number one is legal and policy reforms. These reforms should recognize economic abuse as a form of sexual and gender-based violence and strengthen enforcement of financial orders. For example, ensuring child support and property division orders are enforced, so that in case of a situation whereby it happens, the legal part of the policy reforms can able to help the survivor. Another thing is economic empowerment programs. What can we do by this? We can always do it through skills training and education. There's microfinance and small business support by maybe through accessible loans and mentorship for women entrepreneurs, saving programs and asset buildings, and job placement and mentorship. We should always be able to connect survivors with employment opportunities and ongoing support. What do we do? Call to action. Every single one of us has a role to play in breaking these chains. It might feel overwhelming, but even small actions contribute to significant change. Think about one thing you can commit to doing after this presentation. Think about that something. Think about that person, maybe in your hood, who has been suffering. And what can you do with that person? We say charity begins at home. As Justina normally says that we should be preaching this SGBV everywhere. We should preach this message of sexual and gender-based violence anywhere you get an opportunity or you see an opportunity. And always be ready to help. Or if you cannot help, refer that person to someone who can help that person. And in conclusion, financial dependence traps individual and perpetuates cycles of violence and poverty. That's what I can say. If you are not financially dependent, you can always remain in poverty and violence. But we also know that through individual actions, systemic reforms, and collective commitment, we can break these chains. Let's move beyond awareness to action. Support organizations working on economic justice and SGBV, advocate for policy changes, and empower those around you. Your voice, your actions matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty. You gave us some powerful discussions and powerful thought. So one of the things that I want to bring to the attention before I pass it on to Abby to close us out is, how do we make those changes? What are those intersects that we can enter in that possibly shift what is happening in people's lives that are engaged in domestic violence? Well, one of them, as Abby was sharing, was the Walking in Silence for the Silence Domestic Violence Walk. I always love to share that the walk we have in Harlem, we were completing the walk because we partnered with the police department, the DV department in the Harlem police. And there was a lady went by and she had a baby stroller and she went by twice. And I'm noticing her while we're finishing up. And she asked what we were doing. And I shared with her our event and the purpose. And she said, I'm going through that right now. And I don't know how to get out of it. Well, just so happens we were there. So what I want to share with you is, when it seems like your presence is not enough, it is. Because you don't know the time or the hour that you might be in a position, in a place to help someone through their situation. You can possibly guide them. I always keep extra money on me, and I call it my hide money. The reason why I keep that extra 10 US dollars is, if somebody comes and goes, help me, at least I can offer them the $10 that can at least get to a public place to get the support they need. I generally keep information, or you can go to this organization here they can help. Sometimes it might be intrusive for us to want to consider getting involved, but we have to help somehow. That's what this walk does. After every walk, everyone is taking on a relationship to the domestic violence in their community. I like to share in Cincinnati, Ohio, we have the group that's the longest walking group we have, and they address domestic violence in youth. And they have a program at the community center talking about that, engaging in that. We don't know how many lives we are touching every time we do this. So for a moment, don't think what I'm doing is not enough. It's more than enough. Trust me, it's more than enough. Abby, the floor is yours. Betty, thank you. That was powerful. That's a lot to unpack. We will talk about unpacking that. But Abby, the floor is yours.
Wow, thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Betty. That was a great session. Before we close, what are some of the things that Betty said? To some people it might seem like theory, because sometimes you really need to experience these things firsthand to really know the impact of the damages of these things to people's lives. So we have with us, Madam Professor Justina. She's, a senior correctional officer in Kenya. She has seen most of these things, practically. And one of the amazing things that she is doing, is like they are actually really helping some of these women to start a form of livelihood, because the issue that Betty has raised here are very germane, are very serious issues. And because definitely, financial power is so strong to an extent that you can use it to control people. So I would like Madam Professor Justina to share with us some of this thought, with some practical experience, the practical examples of the challenges and some of the steps that they are really taking to address some of these things, so that we can really know that things are happening. So when we are saying empower women, help women to be financially sustainable, we know that we are really saying, is a serious business. So Madam Justina.
Thank you so much. That was powerful, Madam Betty. Thank you, our mentor, and Mr. Deleke. Thank you for always standing in. As a man, we can call you the he for she, the he for she for today.
Thank you.
And yes, as Deleke has said, I've been a correction officer for over 20 years now, and I've worked with women. Sorry, I'm on the way, and the noise there is my in-laws have given me some chicken to go and slaughter. So when you hear that noise, don't worry. I'm on my way. We are driving back home with my husband. So I was saying that, as he said, economic SGBV is one of the SGBV dimensions that are really taking a toll on women, especially women behind bars. When a woman is disempowered economically, she cannot even bail herself out. So most of the petty offenders that are filling institutions, not only Kenya, I've had an experience with the Democratic Republic of Congo under UN, Zimbabwe, Burkina Faso, and even Malta. I advise there. And when we meet with other correctional experts, we always have this concern that the people that are flocking in these institutions, most of them are either the poor men who cannot afford the bails and fines, or women generally. Why? Because a woman cannot make a decision on issues of money. Like when she's arrested, she must ask permission from the husband. And if this, the arrest and even the process up to her incarceration had the face of the man hidden behind her, then he will use that now to deny her bail or even fines to get her home. So women remain there as a way to shut them inside there, behind the walls. We have also those women who are outside there trying to raise their voices against SGBV. We have women who are out there trying to raise their voices against economic sabotage and the rest. Once they are found to be in that clique, especially now I'm talking about the political arena, most of them you'll find that they can be pushed into behind bars because they feel that while there they cannot bail themselves out. So it becomes secondary that they are put inside there, and the kind of fines that are placed on their head are too high for them to go out. By the time they're out, the political issue that they were blocking has already been passed, which can be against women. So I want to say that true, one humanist called Abraham Maslow did a theory. He came up with a theory called the hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs, according to Abraham Maslow, he said human needs are they have 5 levels. So in these 5 levels, the lowest one are the physiological needs. Physiological needs are the basic needs that Betty was talking about. You are married, your husband denies you money for food, not only food, just in the best food that any woman can get from the husband, not because the husband is poor. Sometimes the conditions can make you eat that food that's available, but this man is very well off, but he cannot buy the wife the best clothes, build a good house for the wife and the family, or even or even food. So you find that according to Abraham Maslow, if these needs are not satisfied, not met, because they can be met, you can have that cracked house for yourself. Yeah, it is met. But he said, if they are not satisfied, that like whatever you're given, if you're not satisfied with that, then you cannot. The next level after the physiological needs are what we call the safety needs. So when a woman has these physiological needs met in that family level, then she feels secure. She feels secure, and that's the time now she moves to the next one, which is love and belonging, then the fourth one, which is self-esteem, and then the last one, that is self-actualization. Many women today are not reaching the level of self-actualization where now you are empowered enough to empower other people, because these other inferior levels have not been felt. So most of the time, women are suffering because they are suffering in the sense that they cannot speak for themselves, because at the level of self-actualization, you can even stand out and say no, even in a public place. But when other needs are not, you are not they are not protected in that level of, when you talk about domestic violence and IPV, if the other needs are not protected, you have physiological needs which are not met, your children cannot afford education, health issues are not met, then you cannot be safe in that level. And if you're not safe, you feel the frustration. When you're frustrated, then stress comes in. And when you're stressed, now anxiety comes in. Anxiety, if it's not treated, it moves to depression. So most women move from physiological needs. By the time they reach the safety needs, now they contract the mental health issues, and they get stuck there. So they don't feel loved anymore, their self-esteem is low, and they don't self-actualize. So in such, you find that a woman is within that cycle, remains in that family. As I mentioned in my other last week when I made a presentation on Saturday, they remain there because they want to keep the marriage. There was that information that was packaged for them. Most of the time when a woman is getting married, you are given a gift in terms of advice. And what all women will tell you is that we are in this marriage because we endured. So my daughter, when you go there, go and endure. I was even telling people in this place where we were today, why do we like telling women that way when they're getting married, even when they are doing church wedding or even Muslim wedding? Why should we advise women and tell them, when you go there, marriage is about endurance, and without telling them to what extent should you endure? Yeah, marriage is about loving one another, but to what extent? So I think there's a gap, and the call to action from where I sit is that let us tell people the limit of the love that they should give to their partners, and when to say, I want to break free and go for my life and stay a life that is free from SGBV. Let's tell women when to endure and when not to endure. I think those are the boundaries that we miss in Africa, and even Black people and Black women and even our mentors. And to me, that's the area that we need to work on, telling people when to say stop and when to say no and when to choose themselves. Thank you. Back to you, Adeleke.
Thank you so much, Madam Justina. You know, the dimension that you always bring, you know, to the discussion, you know, practical or straightforward, and you know, so full of information. That's, you know, that's amazing, and that is the reason why, you know, I strongly believe that, you know, it is about time. Is high time that we start to change, you know, stereotypes. You know, imagining telling women who are getting married to go and endure. It's more like you're already telling them from day one that you are going in to suffer. Just take it, whatever you face there, just go along with it. Enduring is not about enduring oppression. Of course, when young couples start their life, they might need to maybe to endure the challenges of life, you know, support one another to grow, you know, to develop and grow together. But when you say go and endure, you know, it's more like even if the guy is maltreating, if he is oppressing you, you know, stay there, endure. And I love what you said. They need to understand, you know, to what level, to what extent, because I strongly believe that dominion was not given to man over man. When God gave his creature dominion in the garden, he said over the animals, over the thing that he has created. He didn't give man dominion over another man. So we need to understand this and put this into perspective, because enough of this carnage. When a man gets married, he should learn to understand that your wife is not your slave, is not your punching bag, is your partner. You have the same right, is to support you. If there are issues, you should be able to talk it over and not come with the superiority mindset and say, you can imagine a man telling the wife, I'll kill you and nothing will happen, because the man sees the woman as his property. So probably, some other times there are some other issues for another day, but this is wonderful. This is amazing, and we just want every hands to be on deck so that we are not going to stop. We're not going to keep quiet. We'll keep saying it, and by the time we also encourage our young boys, our sons that are growing up, to learn to love and respect their wives, over time we will gradually begin to see the changes that we really want to see, in our society. Thank you so much, Madam Justina. That's a wonderful dimension to the discussion. So I don't know if anybody want to say one or two things again before we wrap it up for today. Do we have a Reverend Fit-Biz leader in the house that can also share a kind of perspective on this? Because it is all hands on deck. Everybody, we are all involved. The faith-based leaders, religious leaders, correctional officers, NGOs, everybody. It is a collective responsibility. It is not a work that one person will do. By the time we are fighting these vices from every angle, from every dimension, then the oppressors will also know that there is no hiding place, and they just have to change. Any other contribution from anybody before we wrap it up for today? Reverend Younger Benjamin, anything?
Well, Abby, I just want to say I love what she said, because you have to know when enough is enough. And that's what I heard. You have to know when enough is enough. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate these conversations. So much will come from it. Trust me, this will be recorded. It will be on our YouTube page. It'll be on our webpage, on our WIS page. It'll be all over so you can see it and just meditate on it. Draw what you can draw from it to do what you need to do for change. Remember, we're about changing one community at a time. We know we can't change the world, but if we just deal with our own little backyard, and each of us do that. I'm doing it here in the States. You're doing it in Africa. We got somebody in Europe doing it. South America, the Caribbean, in Canada, in Asia, in India. Watch how we can make change. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abby. And you can close us out. Thank you, Abby.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And before we close, please, I want to encourage every one of us, to get involved. The first Saturday in November every year, we walk, we take a walk for those who have been silenced by domestic violence. We just have to keep talking. We don't have to be silent. Our voice must not be silenced. They have been silenced, so we have to just speak for them and keep speaking. And as Loretta said, one community at a time. Thank you so much. We all love you for coming. We really appreciate your presence, and we'll definitely get across some other time. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.